Any other questions? All right, this will move to our January 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. This is, thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Michigan Department of Transportation, a roadside maintenance update. Mr. Dan.
Yes, we have Lee Schultz, our acting engineer here. We've had a number of conversations with the Michigan Department of Transportation relative to the maintenance, roadside maintenance program for I-696 and the Telegraph Road area. And we're looking for some direction, but the representative from MDOT will will introduce themselves and share with council what MDOT is proposing for the next I want to say for this construction season starting in 2015.
Okay, can you give us your name and position in this
Certainly.
project?
Yes. My name is Sandy Montez, and I am the Oakland TSC manager at MDOT. And I have with me Ahmad Ismuda, the Oakland TSC maintenance engineer, and Jim Schultz. He's our region engineer of planning. And the three of us have been meeting with Lee and Brandy and Terry to talk about what improvements and enhancements we could make to the roadsides. The Michigan Department of Transportation has jurisdiction over the primary roads in the area, including the I route, so I-696, the M route, M1, and the US route, such as Telegraph US 24. And the area of our focus for this particular project has been what we call the mixing bowl. I think that's what you refer to it as well, which is that area where M10 and I-696 and Telegraph all come together. There's a lot of open space out there, and so we've been meeting to talk about some of the ideas that we have to kind of enhance the landscaping. And I don't know, Jim, if there's anything you want to further talk about the green initiatives that have kind of...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as part of the agenda. I just want to talk a little bit about the material you have on the table. Brandy, I know, was involved in the SEMCOG report, so this is sort of the regional vision for green infrastructure. And then there's this, we obviously have copies of the slides you're going to see in a second. And then we're going to go over what these color exhibits are too. And I know the last page is a list of all the people that have been involved in the discussions of the road commissions, Oakland County, Southfield, and obviously MDOT. But the brains behind the operation are Ahmad.
So Ahmad's going to walk us through the presentation, and if at any time you have questions, feel free to ask.
Okay. We're glad to have you with us.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for inviting us. We really appreciate you making time on your agenda.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here and discuss this basically the mixing bowl. And just to give you where it is, it's pretty much a large stand of M10, and it's starting from Lawson and it extends to all the Bethel. That's the area we are really talking about. But before we do that, we thought maybe we should cover a few other related topics to give you guys.
Use the mic.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But before we do that, we thought we cover a few related topics that it gives you an overall view of how we can achieve this. And the first item is the current vegetation control process, and we will be talking about basically what MDOT is doing statewide, countywide, and then we get specifically to the mixing bowl. The other item, we have the community partnership mowing agreement or contract. In order for any communities to perform maintenance in the state front line, they need to be entered into an agreement or contract with Michigan Department of Transportation. We would go over that. And the third one is the mixing bowl. We'll get into that more specifically. And item 4 and 5, Jim would cover that, and we go from there. And at the end, we welcome any question, and also we'd like to hear your feedback. The current vegetation control process that we have statewide, it basically for freeway mowing, as you can see, we don't do that many cuts. It's primarily because MDOT really, when it comes into the vegetation, it's for more safety rather than to be medical lawn. So we are limited to do 1 to 2 cuts per year for freeway, and we do also do 2 to 3 cycles of leather per cut. For boulevard mowing, we've recently, since I say by 2008, we have entered a partnership with a number of communities, and that has improved the condition tremendously, including in Southfield. And right now, because of that partnership that we have, we're able to fund it for boulevard mowing. We used to be 6 or 8, has increased it to 12 to 14 cuts per year, and also additional cut normally is done by the communities. But also when it gets to landscaping, the community typically has the ownership of it, and they are the one who maintain it. As far as this agreement or contracts with the community, it is called the State Frontline Maintenance Contract with municipality contract. It is typically a generic language. It's typically lawyers, I don't think they like it so much because it's so generic, but that's why we added this letter of understanding. We specifically go into what are our understanding on what we're going to do and what the community would do. It is a 5-year contract. It is this year it's renewed automatically every 5 years. In fact, we started the new 5 years just October 2014, and it will run expires in September 30th, 2019. As part of this contract, it allows the communities to subcontract the work, and also MDOT would compensate for all incurred costs, including employee benefits and overhead. Typically, for a mowing contract, it's because it's subcontracted out, this item of employee benefits is not really covered, but we do have the schedule for paying for the overhead of the community that who are involved in this. In Ontario, how many of them are right now in Oakland County involved in this? As you can see, 8 miles. The city of Southfield has been part of our program since 2008. They're doing 8 miles, and also, as you can see, Grand River, City of Farmington Hills has been with us since 2006. Northwestern Highway against City of Southfield is already part of the program. So is City of Farmington Hills. And there are a number of other areas that the communities are part of it. As you can see, Bloomfield Township it does telegraph for us, and they actually go beyond the township limit. They further go to the Pontiac, and they go down there to Bingham Farms next to Southfield. And also 10 miles, City of Oak Park is involved. In Woodward, we have Bloomfield Township again, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, Ferndale, and Pontiac. Also, we have a program for freeway interchange. It's maintained by the community as well, too. And these are, currently we have I-75 Big Beaver, I-75 Crooks, and these are the communities who are involved in them. I-75 Rochester Road, I-696 and Orchard Lake Road, I-96 Millway, and I-96 Beck Road. And these are the communities or the cities that currently have contract with us: Birmingham, Bloomfield Township, Farmington Hills, Farmington, Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, Rochester, Road Commission for Oakland County, and City of Southfield. Now we get into the mixing bowl, and what we are doing right now currently is part of again a statewide mowing contract. We do only 1 to 2 cuts of mowing and 2 cycles of leather pickup per year for the I say entire flat and slope area. Really, a slope is minimal versus the flat area because it's such a big area. They're mostly flat. What we are proposing right now is more toward green. Is that we are saying instead of mowing the entire area, let's just mow 12 to 15 feet buffer strip 6 times a year instead of 2 we are talking about. But also, we know leather is an issue. Pick up the leather instead of we're doing 2 or 3. Make it 12. say, become more cleaner. And the other thing we're adding is add one application of selective broadleaf control the entire area. We know if we don't mow it, at least we don't want to have too many weeds go up there. This is basically the map. I think it's next to it. You also see it there. It shows the area we are talking about. Started again from Blosser, go all the way to.
And just in case you're wondering, when Ahmad's talking about the buffer areas that would get mowed, those are those sections right next to the shoulders. So obviously, for safety reasons and for clear vision, you do have to have a certain area where everything is cut a little lower. So it sort of outlines the areas that we're talking about.
And next slide is, we believe this proposal would have some benefit to it. It also would be cleaner, less litter, because we're increasing the litter pickup. Would be less weed, because we're doing the application of weed control. Hopefully it looks cleaner and healthier. Improves erosion control. Less of mowing you do, the chances of less erosion you do. Environmentally, obviously, would be friendly, natural looking, and at the end, if things looks better, the customer are happier. And that's what we're hoping for. And this is the kind of example that we are saying is going to happen. This is a GM Tech Center which have gone toward green and just basically doing this buffer strip we are talking about, mowing and leave the grass, not so many weeds, but cleaner. And this is another shot of it that it shows that's the kind of plan, the vision we are looking to do. I think I'm pretty much done with mine, and I let Jim take over.
So one of the things you may ask is, where did we come up with these crazy ideas from? Because it's different. I'm sure everybody at their house is used to cutting the grass at 3 inches, and it looks like a golf course. One of the things we recognize, and I never get defensive, is we say the way we were cutting it twice a year, did it look good? I don't think anybody was happy that it looked great. We think this will be a better look. And then the other thing is, I happen to live with an environmental engineer that works for General Motors, as it turns out, but she was reminding me about GM's activity. So one of the things that she has on her work performance is that the GM facilities are all under this zero landfill, and they also embracing this wildlife at work certification. So what Ahmad and I were talking about, how do you take a freeway interchange and make it almost like a wildlife at work certification or an Audubon certification, but make it something special. So nationally, we haven't seen any state DOTs go after this type of certification, but I think that's their thinking. In other words, instead of just having it, where people drive through an area and don't feel it's anything special, how do you make something unique and look at some of these opportunities? Ahmad already showed you the GM Tech Center. I happen to live near Somerset. And so when I was on the Troy DDA, I was thinking, like probably a lot of you, I want to, waterfalls and flowers and manicured, and they decided at the time, no, we're just going to do the buffer strip and let the rest grow wild, and there's actually a subdivision that abuts it, and it's been fine. And the Northwestern Highway is another example. This is one of the maps we had for all of Oakland County. It's in your package. It's a little distorted. But it shows some of the, what Ahmad was going through, the interchanges on 75. We didn't talk about this University Drive interchange that Auburn Hills is going to do, but we're trying to encourage the community to say, look, this is what MDOT does. Maybe you want to do it better. So we give everybody the same deal. It's not like we're treating any community different. Say, here's our basic deal. If you think you can do a better job, go for it. So that's what this map's indicating. And with that, I'll turn it back to Ahmad in case you have any more questions.
Yes, we do have some questions. Mr. Lance.
Yes. Reference to the contracts and the landscaping and everything, does the community pay you for that, or you pay us?
How the contract works, you already have a contract with us, City of Southfield has. It's in the process of to be renewed. And I think it may be in your agenda on the January 26th to sign that contract. Again, renew it for another 5 years. Once that contract is in place and signed, then you would have the opportunity to subcontract the work. There's two ways it can be done: either we do it, subcontract the work, or the city would take the lead and do that, as it is right now. You're doing it on the Telegraph and Northwestern and what have you. Those are the city, basically goes under city's contracting process.
And the city is paying for that?
No, the pay is, we pay, we establish a budget. As we mentioned, we pay this many number of cycles. Right now for Boulevard going, we compensate for 12 to 14 times, and this, but the city chooses to do 24 times cuts, and also do the landscape. That's the part that the city compensates. They don't charge us. Nobody give each other the money. We said our budget for mowing for Boulevard is 12, 14 times, but you elect to do more than 12. You want to do 24. So that's the part that we just do it under the contractors that you have. You pay them directly to them, not to us, but it just goes in that.
Another question. The litter on the signs of the freeways and everything on the street side, do you pay for that, or we do?
Depends on if it's part of the contract. I believe the Telegraph, if you're referring to Telegraph, it was that we were compensating the contractor to do, was weekly. I remember Telegraph was weekly, that it was part of the contract that we did pay for that. But because it's weekly, the number was really nominal. It wasn't that costly, especially when you subcontract these work, because typically you get a better deal. That we agreed to compensate for the litter pickup, because when you look at the numbers, they're small. But most of the time, it is really a partnership between us and the community, and you are the biggest stakeholder of these, and we'd like to work with you guys, but like anybody else, we have funding issues, and there's so much we can do. And we know we have increased the level of service in these boulevard by this partnership, and it overall has worked really well. The number of communities, including City of Southfield.
Ms. Seymour?
Yes, I have noticed in the last, I guess, couple of years that mixing bowl site has not been as well kept and maintained as it had been in the previous years. And disappointed to see that, because for a long time it looked really great. I have a couple questions. Number one, when you mentioned Audubon, are you working with a group, Michigan Audubon, National Audubon, just standards that they have? Are you working with?
We're just starting to address that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say we have anybody in particular in mind, other than, just like the golf courses are trying to be Audubon certified and use less pesticides, and we're trying to embrace all that.
Well, I am a long-time board member of the Audubon Society. I'd be happy to help in any way possible. I drive that mixing bowl site so many times and look at it, and it just seems to go, a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and I keep thinking, why aren't they doing something about it? Why has this happened? Now I know. I mean, it is cost, and I understand that, but it is such a beautiful site, and the potential is so great, and it wouldn't take much to make it.
Now, in your packet is actually something the City of Southfield put together, a concept drawing of how we envision it. So the first step is this difference in mowing. Your city staff has actually come up with a concept to reforest it, in effect, put wildflowers, and we have to go after grants to make that happen. But the idea is, instead of just being a freeway interchange that people just drive through at 70 and 80 miles an hour, how do you make a special place?
It could be beautiful, and it could attract wildlife, and we've thought of that for years. We've talked about it, not necessarily all this council, but the people, Mary Carlock and some of the people that are.
Mary's the one that actually came up with the concept plan.
I believe it.
And then there's actually a trail that runs along the Rouge that goes through the interchange, and we're trying to say, how do we embrace that?
I know that. That's great. No, I'm delighted to hear that. You have no idea how happy I am to hear this. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cyrus?
I like
what you're presenting and certainly supports the buffer plan. I'd rather see more mowing right along the freeway than the twice a year hack it down approach. I noticed that on here, Southfield Freeway between 8 and 9 Mile is not included. And it's particularly bad, the litter, when you, where the Southfield Freeway ends and it hits the lodge. It's your property or state highway property, there's a fence, and all this stuff blows over and gets caught.
Well, it turns out my office is actually adjacent.
Yeah, so you know,
but I think we're trying to look at, we concentrate on the mixing bowl, but the idea is that we need to also do it down at 9 and Southfield and then.
There's another spot that's really bad too, and that's when you come out of Detroit on the Lodge, and it's the Walls Freeway that exit to Northland.
Mm-hmm.
There's something with the wind vortex, it becomes a swirl of litter all the time. And it always bothers me because that's the first exit in Southfield, and I've had people say, well, you know, this is my first impression of Southfield. I got off the Lodge and there's all this stuff swirling around. So those are some areas I think.
Could maybe you address that for a minute, how many cycles of, really that's mostly picked up by our curb sweeping contractor.
I also understand the city of Southfield has its own program that they come and pick up litter.
Well,
that in addition to what we do.
My understanding was that we couldn't, at least this was once the case, we couldn't go on the freeway to pick up stuff. We couldn't send crews on the freeway.
We have to have a contractor.
Unless you have the contract. Right.
Would you have you're under maintenance contract with us?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of communication that you're out there so we could let people know that you're going to be there. As far as the Southfield Freeway goes, we could extend this to Southfield Freeway, which this whole area could be as one. You can say mixing bowl line standard to Southfield.
But I think the other thing you do is you do the freeway sweeping, what, 6 times a year?
Yeah,
Street sweeping.
in fact, if you sometimes you might have noticed that if you pass 8 Mile into Wayne County, there's two terminals, and you probably have the highest curb sweeping in the state in Oakland County right now. 6 times, and sometimes I have even done 7 times if there's an event or something that has come up. So you're trying the best we can do with the funding the contracting and what have you. If we can stretch the funding and we can do more, we're willing to do the same thing that we're coming in here. Let's say put all our resources together, us and the city, and improve the condition as much as we can.
Another concern was trees were planted in the mixing bowl, and it was sort of, they were just put out there, and there was no support for a number of these trees died. I was glad to see the trees, but then they died, and then you have another issue with dots.
I can probably take that question. Those trees were planted as a mitigation for another project, and our resource person came up with that as a kind of an open area that she felt could take these trees. The way our contracts work, there's a 2-year requirement that a contractor water, cultivate, and maintain trees. After that period of time, if any trees have died, they have the decision whether to take a 50% deduction on the cost of the tree or they can replace the tree. More often than not, it's not worth it to the contractors, so a lot of times they'll just walk away from it and take the deduction. Unfortunately, this happens and I think it's a flaw in our construction contracts. They walk away from these trees, and then basically we're stuck with dead trees. And the only way eventually they may rot and fall down, but we don't put out another contract then to go out and remove these trees. And it's hard for trees to survive in the harsh environments on a freeway anyway. And then with just a 2-year pretty minimal amount of watering. It's something we've talked about a lot, about kind of improving that process, but I agree with you. We spend a lot of money, and then half the time we get nothing.
And then, just so you know, in the concept drawing that we're thinking about, the idea was we're going to plant trees really dense, so let's say within a 4 or 5 foot radius, there'd be that density, with the expectation some are going to die, so it'd be like natural selection. But there'll be such a density of trees planted, you won't notice it. The way we planted these trees, they're so far apart, you really notice it. So, I mean, there's a whole different philosophy, recognizing trees are going to die, but we're going to plant a lot of them.
So the contractor then doesn't have to go back if it's a really dry spell?
Well, we set up, they do have to, the only way they get paid at the end of the 2-year period is if the tree has survived. If it's dead, then, like I said, they get a 50% deduction on the cost of the tree. So they have to make a financial decision. Is it cheaper for me to take my deduction or go out and replant a new tree? Well, like I said, more often than not, they end up just taking their deduction and walking away from them. And then we're kind of stuck with a whole bunch of dead trees. And it happens all over our system. It really is, like I said, it's something our statewide people, we set up our spec books, are looking at to see if there's a better way we can contract for trees and cultivation.
Good. Well, I appreciate that you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for being here, and I'm here to raise a sore spot with me, and that is Telegraph Road between I-696 and our city limit. This is going now on 7 years, and the median still has not been put back together. And I remember many discussions, and money ran out, and all this, and I guess my question is, how do we proceed with the projects and programs and monitor them so that we preserve what we spend money for? In other words, that was an assessment district, and all the corporate people along Telegraph Road paid an assessment to maintain the irrigation system and everything on that median. And here 7 years later, and it's still not completed. But during the inspections, the irrigation was all cut off in the middle of the roads, and nothing was actually caught or anything done about it until now we're in a position where the city is short of money, and MDOT short of money, and you can only do with what you have. But it's really was a crime what happened to that median. That was a beautiful landscape median with irrigation system, and that project took a long time to get done. There were 11, 12 businesses that went out of business because they couldn't get to them. And we even looked at some of the topsoil that was brought in, and your specs call for a 2.5-inch stone in the topsoil. And you know, we delivered a couple of bags of that 2.5-inch stones to you, and that really isn't topsoil. So, and I don't want to criticize. What I want to do is to avoid that happening again. And you know that, but even under the bridge by Toys R Us, the easterly lane is all gone already. 9 Mile Road and Telegraph, there's a big hole in the where you pull off your to pull on 9 Mile Road. Is that 9 Mile Road?
Yeah, deceleration.
But nobody seems to go and take care of the maintenance. And there was a picture on the Detroit News showing the runway at our metro, and showing the same thing that you see everywhere. In every place that it is cut is where it breaks, and then they put down coal pad and coal pad and coal pad, and the concrete is not old enough. Is there anything that's happening where that concrete now is looked at to see about the quality of it when it's put down, or the asphalt when it's put down?
All right, that's
I think we've had this good
Well,
discussion.
let me, You brought up a lot of different things, so let me just jump into the first, your 12-mile and telegraph issue. No question that when we did that reconstruction, they wiped out most of that nice landscaping that was in there and did do an awful lot of damage to the irrigation system. And that was right around the time that I became the Oakland TSC manager. And one of the first things we did was recognize that it really looked bad out there, that it was our responsibility to do something about that. So I went to the Metro Region, to our region engineer, and asked if they could, using 100% state money, no federal money, because the feds washed their hands of that job due to all the problems on that job, and asked if we could get the money, 100% state money, to replace that irrigation system. And we worked very closely with Lee and the city, and all of that irrigation system has been replaced, and as far as I know, is up and working now. We went through a couple of dry summers without any irrigation there. No question that didn't help, even when they put down the grass. And I also agree with you that what was acceptable there, or what was brought in as topsoil, was not topsoil. It was really an inferior, and it really should not have been accepted. Unfortunately, the engineer who was the engineer of record on that job is no longer with MDOT. He's retired, and he's with private industry. There's not much we can do other than we replaced all the irrigation, we did some landscaping, we reseeded it all. Now it's, there's some good plants in there, and I know Jim has offered some money to do some replanting. It's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, it would have taken a little bit of time anyway when you start with smaller plants, but we feel like the area is now on the right track. We've got the irrigation system in, and I know Mary, before she left, was working on getting it weeded. That was another part of the problem, is the area.
We had code enforcement going,
Yep.
3-4
Yep.
weeks.
Yep. So there were a lot of issues. I think we've resolved most of the issues on there, and I really do think that going forward it is going to be much better through that corridor. We need to give it a little bit of time for the irrigation to start working and having an effect on the plants. So that's being said about that. Now the pavement itself, we did go through a period in the late 1999, 2000, where a lot of our concrete pavement deteriorated. There's been all sorts of research done by all the universities in the area to try to figure out what caused that to happen. Most of the theories go back to, it wasn't a matter of poor inspection, it was a matter of loss of air in the concrete as it went through the pavers. And so you don't have the air void system that you should have in concrete. And so when the concrete freezes, there's no place for expansion, and it's caused it to break up. This has happened not only on our roads, but also City of Southfield roads. It's happened on county roads. There's a whole vintage of concrete, just the specifications were just inadequate, and so we've corrected those. And most of the concrete that MDOT has placed since that period of time is doing fabulously well. Our concrete sections are holding up now 15 years without repair, but we're still playing catch-up on trying to get some of that older vintage of concrete replaced. And then, when you resurface a road, in terms of what you're saying about how long you can expect it to last, generally on our concrete pavements we have 5-year warranties, and on our resurfacing projects we have a 2-year warranty. After that point, a contractor's off the hook. They're no longer required to come back and make any corrections. At that point, if there's any further deterioration, now it becomes a maintenance issue, and a mod contract telegraph with the Road Commission for Oakland County, and they take care of maintaining that. If you see something specific, feel free to call us, and we'll always have the county go out and do it. But at this time of year, the best you're going to be able to do, the asphalt plants aren't open, so really all we're sort of doing is pool patch until, we can go in and do more extensive types of repairs.
Do you know why they thought that the concrete, at least 30, 40 feet? In other words, what everybody sees is you go through 2 or 3 winters, and you get water, or you get different levels of concrete, how they rose and how they sat down, and so you get the effect of thump, 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 thump. When you look at Greenfield Road, 28 Canvas, you just spent $1 million for it, and I don't know why they soft cut that if they don't intend to maintain it so that they don't allow water to seep in between it.
So you're saying, why don't they seal the joint?
Yeah, they put something in it, but it doesn't hold. And, for example, 275, if you go around 6 miles, I mean, it goes crazy, you gotta stop and sit down a flat tire.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't
That's
understand it.
that bad vintage of concrete, and we already went in there and did an extensive, that section you're talking about on 275 was 1999, and we are actually getting ready to do an overlay project out there. Almost every single joint on that section failed, and again, that's that bad vintage of concrete where there wasn't enough air in the pavement, and so when the water would get into the joints, it would cause deterioration, and we've had to do a ton of patching.
So do they check out the plant itself to see
Oh,
if
yeah.
the mix is what you
Absolutely,
ordered?
absolutely. Every plant that we use is certified. They have to produce test documents to show that they are testing. Our spec on concrete is now 37 pages, and there's so much testing that gets done on the concrete. One thing that you have to consider too, in our area, we use a tremendous amount of salt. Salt is an enemy of concrete, and but what choice do we have? I mean, when you have snow, people expect that they're going to be able to drive on the roads, and salt is really the best tool we have for that.
Is the liquid inefficient?
You mean,
The chemical they put down,
it's just salt and water, right?
is that all it is?
Yeah, that's all it is. We can't afford to do any, salt as the city probably knows, is already very expensive. We paid, what did we pay this year, about
$85.
60, I think we paid 61 a ton.
Well, actually, it depends, every municipality, every county
Yeah.
is different.
But the cost went
Actually,
way
Oakland
up.
County was more reasonable than other, around 55 or something. So
I appreciate what you're dealing with, but these roads, guys, something's gotta happen so they can last a little bit longer. We'll never, we just spent a $99 million on it, and, it's only 99 miles. You look at it.
It's just a
Then they were actually gonna ask for another one in 2 years.
Because when there is high in the material, too much construction, expansion, or what have you, it's just ruining our roadway. Lots of
Well,
movement.
maintenance, you got a lot to do with it.
It is, and again, even like these chemicals doesn't help, but we have to do them because the safety of the public comes first. I mean, they're always gonna harm it. And, we do excessive amount of liquid these days, but these liquids have calcium chloride in it, have magnesium chloride in it. All these things are not friendly to concrete. So it does, in some extent, these are part of the contributing factors of we are seeing our roads living longer as we
We got a lot of work to do. But thank you for being here, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes, I also want to thank you for being here and sharing with us what your plans are. I have a few questions. One is, when you talk about mowing back from the shoulder of the road, how far back do you mow?
We talked about the buffer, 15 feet.
15 feet?
12, 15 feet, that's what we were talking about.
Okay, because especially in the fall after the growing season is over and it starts getting dry, that it needs to be mowed back because, somebody throws a cigarette out or something may cause a grass fire along the edge of the road. So, second question is, and you partially answered when you talked about what you're going to do with the Telegraph Road median, where it was watered before and now it's you're repairing it. But it seems the further north you go on Telegraph Road, the better the medians look. Can you help me with that?
Well, and Mad oversees those contracts, but as he had mentioned, we contract with the different agencies along there, and everybody gets compensated for the base service that we would have provided. If communities such as Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills want to do more than that, they're paying for that at their own cost.
Okay.
So that is the big difference, and I know they do far more than...
We just talked about it, this area looks beautiful before, as a result of construction. I'm very hopeful, once the city takes over, you're going to have the same look. It's just a matter of time. It has gone through the construction, so many things has been dug up, and the material they used was not necessarily the best, the topsoils or what have you, even the seeds, they apply, they have weeds in it or what have you. But I think once the cycle of construction is over and the city will take over this area, it should look like what it was before.
Now, do you know if those medians on the northern end are sprinkled? Do they,
I don't
are they
believe-
irrigated?
I don't-
It's isolated areas,
Yeah, just
selected
certain
areas.
beds, right.
Bloomfield Township and Bloomfield Hills, they're very aggressive in terms of maintaining their landscaping in the median.
Because
The same thing if you drive on Woodward, you see it in Birmingham is the same way. These communities, as part of their community plans or what have you, they do pay a lot of attention to the, they do more work than do. It's partly because it's not, we do the same. We just have the same exact contract that we have in the city of Southfield than we have in Bloomfield Hills or Bloomfield Township. It is really they taking on themselves that they do these extra work.
Okay. The reason I say that is the piece that we were discussing about that was irrigated will look better.
It does, no question. Irrigation is very important, and they do have irrigation areas Bloomfield Township has. Not everywhere, but certain areas, and we see the grass looks much nicer.
Yeah, the piece between 8 Mile and the 12 Mile area that sometimes doesn't always look as
Well, the area from about 8 to up to about 10, that never had irrigation, and it still doesn't. So it is, that area is susceptible to the weather conditions, and as you probably have noticed, under really dry summers without much rainwater, it mostly turns brown. And there's sections up in Bloomfield that are the same way. They don't water everything. So, you know, it just, I mean, this past summer, we had a very, very wet summer, and nothing turned brown on us. But in other summers, we've had almost drought-like conditions. Unfortunately, you know, it's very expensive to irrigate all of those medians, and so a lot of communities simply don't. MDOT as a policy, we do not do any watering or irrigation of any of our roadways. We simply don't have the funds.
But also know some communities, in addition to watering, they have a weed control program as part of mowing. They have feeding it, and just like anything else. You take care of the plants, they do better. So they do have those programs in addition to the mowing. But again, we are not doing it, but it's them that they support that and look for green.
On the new 96 rebuild, I noticed that all of the trees have been wrapped with burlap to protect them from the winter. Is that something new? Is that a new plan, or
You
how
know,
did that?
I'm guessing that is new. I haven't seen that in the past, and I know that they did do some things, some new and innovative. They've been working much more closely with our roadside management people, or I should say our roadside management people, staff up in Lansing have been working more closely with our construction folks, recognizing that, you know, truthfully, MDOT is in the road and bridge business. We're not experts at landscaping. We now have, you know, people that are expert in that, and my guess is that they probably worked with them and set a specification in that they had to do that, because that one would still be within that 2-year cultivation period. So none of us were involved in
But it
that
might be
project.
the contractor may have taken the initiative.
Well, and it's possible too, to
it was
save his
less
investment.
risk.
Right.
Because that's got to be real expensive, because they've got to go out in the spring and take them off. And there's a
Yeah.
ton of trees.
We could find the answer to that. I really don't know. I haven't seen that as a standard practice.
Yeah. That's the first time I've ever seen it.
Right.
And I just wondered if that was something new in your...
Very possible, or like Jim said, it's possible the contractor made a financial decision.
Protecting their own
and
investment.
Protect their investment. Not sure, we can find that out.
Okay, the last item I want to talk about is, it's a suggestion, but I know I'm expending breath that probably will never see results, but I think concrete highways are safer than asphalt highways, and I'll tell you why. On a moonless night when it's raining out, your headlights on your car are almost absorbed right in front of the car. You just can't see down the road.
Yeah.
And on a concrete highway, because it's lighter, the lights bounce off and you can see further down the road. I think it's a safety issue myself, and I don't know how you weave that into the formula for how much it costs to put a highway in and the safety factor, but
It's one of many, many, many factors. I can't say in my experience I've seen that being the deciding factor because there's so many other factors. But I would agree with you, that's my own personal experience, that on a wet,
moonless night.
Yeah, moonless night where it's hard to see, it can be harder to see on an asphalt road.
Yes.
There's a sheen that just makes it where you can almost not see the joint lines, whereas you're right, concrete, a little better in those conditions to be able to.
Yeah, I know when the petroleum was very expensive, it may have made some sense to put in concrete, but now that it's so inexpensive in the spring.
Well, and we also have to keep both industries
Oh, of course.
happy. We get a lot of pressure from both. I mean, there's some people who would say that we should be building all of our roads out of asphalt because it's the easy thing to do. You don't have to cut patches. You can just mill it and resurface it every so many years, and it's lower maintenance long-term. So, there's always two sides in that argument. So.
Okay.
But I do agree with what you're saying.
Thank you. That's it.
Yes, excuse me. I agree with everything that's been said by all the council people. We've all observed the same thing, and I have to agree with that. I am particularly interested in the mixing bowl because when it started out, you could see the potential. It's a beautiful location. And then little by little, certain things were done that maybe shouldn't have been done. I would say, as things grew up and things got brown, and there just seemed to be a lack of attention. It's a beautiful site, and it should be really cared for. A lot of wildlife could use it. I know we've talked about that off and on. I would like to see more of that attempt made. I mentioned Detroit Audubon. I think they're the oldest Audubon in the society, and it's not in Detroit, it's Greater Detroit. And if you ever want to talk to them, contact me, and I'll put you in touch with them, because I know they'd be happy to participate in any way, any way that they can help you. Okay. Seriously. But thank you for coming. This has really been very worthwhile. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
I've got a few questions.
Sure.
As it relates to the mixing bowl and the proposal that you're suggesting, will that include the litter being picked up outside of the buffer zones, or is it just restricted?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, we don't go that far, and normally litter doesn't shoot up that far. It's mostly people, trucks, and what have you. I even doubt that people necessarily drop this litter. So they're mostly extended to the ditch line, and it stays there. That's where we do the cleanup. We don't typically go that big area. We haven't done litter pickup that far, as I recall. But I think we leave it open if there is something that needs to be done. We have two types of litter. One we call them junking. There's some big items or what have you left that we have the county forces to go pick them up. And the litter is typically papers and those stuff that we were talking about. It's called where they mow, they pick them up and clean them up. So at this point, we are limiting to that buffer area that we're talking, but we can leave it open if there is. It needs to be addressing some litter issue comes up in the contract, we can address it later on, if it does become a problem. As of now, I don't think it is, but we keep it in the radar.
All right. I'm really delighted to know that it's the same contract that's being used for Southfield as well as all the other cities. I guess I always thought it was different, but that is
It's the exact same contract, just identical.
But other communities have put more dollars into
They
this
just, their own
beautification.
dollars, exactly, that's what it is.
And that's really what we're going to have to do, is be aggressive, take a real aggressive approach in putting more dollars in terms
We
of
always felt they were
beautification.
getting more special
Yeah, we
attention.
did. But I have a question not related to the contract, but it has to do with a safety issue that I've noticed in the mixing bowl. So let me tell you, you're headed south on Telegraph, and you're taking the exit to get onto Northwestern Highway, and there's some white barriers to prevent you from going over the 696 west. I've noticed several cars still crossing the lanes to get onto 696 west. What can be done, and I don't know if you guys could relay the message or help us out, if there could be more of those barriers added.
Repeat against me, I want to make sure I exactly understand.
Okay, so you're on Telegraph Road, heading south.
Heading south.
Okay, 12 miles.
Okay.
And you're going on to the Northwestern Highway
Okay.
ramp.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, where you have to make the decision whether you go on to Northwestern or go on to,
Okay, so people get on that Northwestern Highway ramp,
Yep.
but they'll still decide to
Now I
cross
know what you're
over,
talking about. Okay.
you know, 4 or 5 lanes of traffic going up to, what can be done to either extend the barriers, or what can you do? It's a safety issue.
Yeah, we can, we have several options that we can explore. We have, safety engineers. I'll take that back to our folks and see what, if they may have studied that in the past, I'm not sure, but I'll take it back and see if there's anything that they can do. We can do a safety audit through there and see.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I do know that that phenomenon does exist.
Okay.
There may be things we can do to extend that.
All right, Council, before us, we have a proposed mowing service from MDOT. So the current schedule is the 1 to 2 truck of mowing and 2 cycles of other pickup. Or if we want to introduce enter a new contract with MDOT with the flat area being mowed 6 times a year and the most sloped area 2 times a year. Litter pickup 12 times a year, and then 1 application of a weed control. So that's what's on the table at this time. And we need a consensus at this point. So why don't I just go around the table and you just say, yes, you're interested in entering the contract, the new proposed mowing contract, or you would like to leave it the same.
Where did you see that, Ellie?
That's on page 3 of the handout, the bottom, the PowerPoint presentation. Right. Page 3, last slide.
And is that in the same workflow?
Apparently I didn't get the PowerPoint.
Is there any cost difference? No.
Well, a couple things I want to point out. One, entering into the contract, I understand that the current contract is up, and that's just a generic contract to say that we will, we'll be able to have a financial arrangement. So regardless of which way you decide to go, with keep things the way they are or do the new type of mowing, you're still going to want to renew that contract. Then the decision is, do you want to mow all of these areas twice a year like we've been doing, or do you want to simply mow the buffer areas and start letting the rest of these bigger areas go natural? So that's really kind of the and you may want to think about that. I don't know that we need a decision on that immediately.
Let me elaborate on that. As far as what we are proposing is this is what we propose once we do in the letter of understanding as part of the big contract. We would compensate you for what we propose. If you do like to add to that, would in addition, like Boulevard, you're saying, maybe I wanted to have 12 cars in that area, or I want to increase 24 letter pickup. That's where you can come in. This is what, just like we mentioned about the Boulevard, we have proposed to community, we pay for 12 cuts, and then what they do more. This is what we're proposing, and if you want to take it as it is, and I think there's 2 ways to look at it. We have to see the contracting process for the city, because it has to go through contracting. Right now, we do have a contract, a new contract that we are doing for mowing is coming up. We could cover it under our new mowing contract. So if the city would not be involved, it's just a matter of bringing it to your attention to see, would you like this proposal, and go from there. Either we can handle it completely, or we can say, as like partnership with the Boulevard, that you want to take over. I'd rather you guys to be engaged part of it than we just do it our own, which we can do it, by the way. We have a contract coming up. I can just say, you accept this proposal, you don't have to do anything. I just put it under my contract to do it. Or we say, take it out of your contract, the city would have a contract, advertise a contract as part of the boulevard, and add this area to it, and we do it all once.
I think with that said, we need to refer it to the administration and
Yeah,
move that and move forward from there. There's a research about it.
Yeah, Fred, the proposal that they have, I'd like to know what they have presently and how effective is it? In other words, to see whether or not it benefits the city to go somewhere, do something else other than what we're doing. And so, it's hard when you don't know if it's satisfactory now, can we get enough mowing under their contract, and then we do in addition to that, or are we satisfied with the way it is and we just keep it?
Okay.
I mean, I think, because we're really coming off the wall, because I don't know what they're proposing as far as how many cuts, how does it look after you do that many cuts a season? And, they do, these contractors use that as their dump site too,
Yeah.
Fixing board, you see all the garbage over there, stones and cement, and
I know there's
they dump over there and that.
there's construction,
Yeah.
and hopefully if we take over,
No trespassing or something up there, because it's really a dumping pit, really.
Looks like a furnace staging area.
Yeah.
to some extent, I agree with you, there's sometimes when a construction job goes into use it as staging.
Why don't you come with a recommendation?
We'll complete a review of our grass cutting contracts with MDOT. We already augment telegraph. We've heard some of the issues regarding the maintenance. Regarding the mixing bowl, I'm not hearing any serious objections to exploring this new concept, so we'll pursue that as well.
And if you need to see, like, obviously not now, but if you want to see, like, what the GM Tech Center is doing, or you can certainly drive around Somerset Mall and see it, and get a better idea of what it looks like if you go to this new approach.
Take a look, yep.
Okay, so this will be referred to the administration. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.